With the latest patch, the console edition Rust now has more bugs than a Soviet-era nuclear warhead. And that's not a good thing, especially if you live within 100 miles of that warhead. What's got 11 fingers, no toes, and a hairy head? Probably you if you live within 100 miles of that nuclear warhead, and like that warhead, Rust is in a lot of trouble. Also, just to clarify, when I'm talking about a hairy head, I was not talking about one in between two shoulders. Moving on though, the console edition Rust does have a lot of bugs, and those bugs have existed for a long time. Unfortunately, this latest patch introduced a series of bugs that really do break the game. They do everything from breaking cargo ship and oil rig to changing rating in a horrible way. And finally, they've made it so that when you die, you might literally have to leave the game. And not because you're rage quitting, but because the game won't let you respawn. So yeah, the bugs I'm talking about are, first off, you've got one that any player who dies, whether it's on the Xbox or the PlayStation, has a small chance that that death will lead to them not being able to respawn until they restart the game. This doesn't seem like a huge issue if you're on current gen because you can do that fairly quickly. On last gen, it takes a little bit longer, and worse still, a lot of the servers, including the one I'm doing my village on, have a queue time right now. So you get kicked from the game, and if you're in the middle of a firefight, it means you might have to wait in a 40-person queue, which means by the time you get back, not only are all the people you were fighting with gone, any gear that was left behind has long since despawned or been picked up by some dude with a rock. In addition to that, some other bugs that are really game-breaking are that Satchel Charges now are silent, along with C4. So for a lot of people now, raiding doesn't even make any noise if you're using explosives, which seriously nerfs explosives, but luckily for those of you who don't want raiding to be nerfed too hard, if you're using Satchel Charges, there's a chance that you throw them and they completely disappear. And no, they don't go boom still. They just completely disappear. So basically what it is if you throw a satchel charge and it fails to go off, you're unable to pick it up, which means you lose that satchel charge. The problem doesn't exist with C4. So C4, you can throw it, it completely disappears. You don't hear the explosion, but it'll still blow off the door, which is seriously bad because what this means now is counter raiding and everything like that no longer works. In the village that I created, I've heard of people being raided and nobody heard a thing, which means that that was definitely the explosives glitch at play. A raid happened, nobody heard it, nobody defended against it, and when someone logged in, their base is completely gone and nobody has any idea what happened. Now, it could have been a silent raid, of course, but even still, you would hear it if you were close by, and since nobody even heard that, my guess is it was this bug at play. And to make matters worse, for those of you who are running in teams or just really good solo players, if you go and run something like the oil rig or the cargo ship, there is a crouching bug, which means when your character's running too close to, I don't know, a wall or the ceiling or just anything, it crouches, auto crouches, that is. Basically, even if you don't want to, you're stuck going up and down, up and down, up and down, and that makes it a lot harder to aim, go figure. So yeah, those are a few of the game-breaking glitches. There's also some more minor glitches that really are throwing people off. There's still audio bugs. There's still a lot of these old issues that existed, but these 3 new ones have seriously changed the game and the way that you play it. Making explosive silent is not something that should be done because it completely nerfs raiding in favor of the raiders, especially if they can get to C4. Making people disconnect after dying is just horrible because if there's a queue, that leads to a really bad experience. And monuments having this auto glitch bug or auto crouch bug, it just throws everything off because now there's monuments that people just can't run unless they're in a big enough group where if they get downed, someone can pick them up. If you're solo, this is especially bad because even if your aim is amazing, there's always that chance that a scientist or someone just comes around a bend and shoots you at a weird time while you're going up and down and you can't get your aim straight. So yeah, overall, I think these are some of the worst glitches we've seen in the console edition Rust in a while. If you don't believe me, I've seen people commenting about this on videos, on the Reddit, on the Discord, all over the place. Sometimes not even where it's relevant, people are complaining about these bugs. So that shows you just how sort of pervasive these bugs are. It's not just me experiencing them. It's not just 1 or 2 people I'm talking to. It seems like it's most of the community that's experiencing them. And what this makes me question is why they can't roll back the patch. This should be something that any game developer has the ability to do. I'm not sure if this is an Xbox or PlayStation thing that disallows it, But there should be a way that they can roll back this patch and set us back to where we were last wipe. Last wipe, there were some things that people didn't like, but overall it was a lot better than this. The experience was a lot better. People weren't getting kicked from the game because they died and they couldn't respawn, and you didn't have oil rig and cargo completely like unplayable if you don't like crouching and standing at random times. Depending on your stance on recoil, maybe that's something you do want. I don't know. But there's just so many bugs with this, and there's so many people complaining. You think that they just roll back the patch and try and fix it, but instead they're pushing forward. And what this led to is a really bad experience. I think there's a few issues going on here. First off, they're doing the wipe at the wrong time. You should not be doing a wipe on a Thursday if you're not prepared to roll back. If you're not prepared to roll back, what you should be doing is you should be releasing a patch and doing a wipe. You should be doing those on the same time. You should be doing it Monday or Tuesday. The reason you do this is because then it gives developers Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to work on a fix during work hours. Expecting someone to work overtime to fix a game, that's unreasonable, and that's not something that I'd expect. But expecting a company or whoever's in charge of this to get their shit together and say, hey, we're not going to do wipes on Thursday anymore, we're going to do them on Tuesday or Monday, I think that makes sense. A lot of people don't like it because they want the weekend to fight through the wipe or whatever. But at the same time, if you're going to be introducing this many bugs with a wipe, you need to address that and just do the wipe earlier. You need to give your developers time to fix the bugs, or in this case, if you're doing it on a Thursday, they should have enough time then to roll back the patch on Friday. If you're not willing to roll back, or if you can't roll back, you need to be releasing these updates on a Monday or Tuesday so you have enough time to properly fix them and release that patch before you get a 2, 3, 4, whatever day weekend. Right? This has been a 2-day weekend, so everybody's been going 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, which are 2 of the days that most people do play without a working game or without a game in a state that is acceptable, in my opinion. Let's face it, this isn't the first time it happened. If this was a one-off thing, if they'd been completely like just rocking and rolling, putting out patches on Friday and Thursday that were amazing, everybody loved it, and this is the first time in years we've had this issue, I'd understand this. So the first time, let's say, since release. But this has happened again and again where they've knocked out the PlayStation players so they can't play. Xbox players are bugged. Things just aren't working, and they're not fixing them until the next week because the developers don't have enough time to get together, figure out what's wrong, fix it, and then release that update. What I do want to be crystal clear about here is that this isn't necessarily a developer or a production issue or anything like that. I think it's just that they need to rearrange the way that they're doing things to really address the code base that they're working with. They don't have anybody that's been experienced with Rust development since the very beginning. That's something that FacePunch does have. They're running Rust on a different system than the PC, obviously, so there's bugs that are going to be introduced because of that. And overall, you've got a huge code base that's been updated over the years. And the older a code base gets, the harder it is to update it without breaking something, especially if you don't have that senior knowledge of the code base, which you really can't have. Even if they've been working with this for 3 or 4 years, there's still probably sections of the code base that nobody's touched that were touched by FacePunch and FacePunch alone. So what this means is they just need to give themselves, or they need to give the developers an acceptable amount of time to find the issues and then fix them. This is something that I think is going to keep occurring, and I think because of that, they should adjust the wipe schedule. If they do it a little bit earlier, there are some players that are going to be upset because the weekend warriors won't be able to get on in time, right? Those people that want to play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they're going to be getting on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and people will have already had Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to sort of get working on their base and get something set up. And yeah, I understand that that really does sort of suck, and it is optimal to have that release on probably Thursday because the idea would be Friday you could roll back or just let the release go. But that's just not what's happening. That's not what we're seeing. We're seeing patches go out on Thursday, the wipe happening on Thursday basically, and then nothing happens until the next week, and that leaves players in a really bad state where they're just all weekend complaining, they're bugging the developers, and that's a lot of stress to put on the developers. I want to make this crystal clear. I don't think this is any one person's fault. I think it's just that the company needs to look at their approach to how they're doing the game, how they're developing the game, when they're putting out these updates, and change it to address some of the problems that are occurring. So yeah, I think that's my take on it. That's how I think this whole issue could have been solved, or at least helped, right? Like, you're never going to solve this issue. There's always going to be bugs. We can't expect every update to be perfect, especially with the speed that they're trying to do things in. It's just not going to happen. But at the same time, I think there can be moves made to make it so when these bugs do occur, it's a better situation for everybody. Because I think, honestly, if this had been released on Monday, and then let's say Wednesday or Thursday they had an update, I wouldn't be making a video about this. People wouldn't be complaining. People would be like, oh man, this sucks. Like Tuesday's a blown day, whatever. Wednesday's a blown day. And then Thursday they get on, they're like, ooh, nice little hot patch. Okay, the game's working again. Great. Let's get into it for the weekend. And I think that's the situation that would have occurred. So yeah, that's where I stand with that. That's my idea. That's the bugs that are occurring for anyone who's wondering. And that's all I've got for today. By the way, if you're looking to join Serial Overdrive's Village on the console edition Rust, make sure you jump into the Discord, ask people. They're going to give you the codes, tell you where everything is. Otherwise, I'm going to be making a video on it so you can jump in then. But yeah, it's a crazy server. There's a ton of PvP action. I think most of the footage that you're seeing here is actually from that server. So if it looks interesting, if it looks intriguing, make sure you jump on the Discord and ask for the cores and join the village. It's friendly in the village, but a lot of the people around it aren't. Anyways, thank you for watching, and until next time, peace.